Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Hello, and welcome to episode 16. I'm Angela Haas, and I'm here with my co-host, Cassie Newell. And this month, we're talking all about the craft of writing. This episode, we're talking about point of view. There is a great article from Kindlepreneur, and it goes through all the different points of view. There's first-person point of view, which uses pronouns I and we. Second-person point of view, which I've actually never read anything in. I don't know about you, but second point of view uses
but it's really limited.
Yeah, they use the pronoun you. Third person point of view uses the pronouns she, he, they, it. And then that goes into whether you're doing third person limited, the reader can only see the thoughts of one person. And usually when you're starting a scene, you give a cue to the reader, this scene starts in this person's point of view, whether that's the name of the person at the chapter heading or just starting that dialogue or those thoughts from that person's point of view. There's third person omniscient, where the narrator knows more of the thoughts of more than just one person. And I think that can lead to head hopping, which we can talk about later. Then there's fourth person point of view, which
I never knew that.
Never heard of this, but it uses indefinite pronouns like one, oneself, someone, anyone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that more for nonfiction, I wonder?
I wonder if it is, because I've never read a fiction novel with that fourth person point of view. So for you, Cassie, which one is your favorite? Which one do you like to write in, read in? Which one is easier for you?
It's interesting you asked me this question because I think in the beginning, when I just started writing, I liked third person a lot. However, I've been writing in first person for so long now that it's second nature to me. And I also enjoy first person a little more because it's closer to the character, because you're telling the character's story. So you're in their head, you're feeling their feelings, and you're displaying them for the reader. So the reader is a little more attached. I think POV is one of those things where it's crucial in figuring out your storytelling because it shapes your narrative experience, right? Like whether you're going to be really close to it or a little bit removed from it. And as a reader, seeing it from afar or being in the experience with that character. And I think for me, I find more joy being in the experience of the character.
Yeah.
What about you?
I like both. For my superhero fiction, I did third person limited, but I always chose 3 points of view per novel because I just felt I didn't actually like feeling limited, but I didn't want to head hop. Like I didn't want to be omniscient. But as I started writing, only going with one character's point of view, even though that was third person, I still needed sometimes scenes in Camp Villain where the hero wouldn't be.
Right.
And I always have a romantic subplot in my superhero fiction. So I choose the main character female, the love interest male, and then the villain's point of view. But that actually was really fun to write in, and it gave me a lot of freedom. When I switched to romance, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think most romance is first person tie between present tense and past tense. Right? So switching to first person was a real challenge because that is just such a different structure. And then switching from past tense, which my first novel was written in, to first person present, that was a challenge. Although I think romance readers, from what I've seen, they really do like feeling that present tense, the immediacy of everything happening right then. And I think that they do like dual point of view with the male and female. What do you think? What if you
It's interesting because I'm reading Tessa Bailey, some of her books right now, and I thought they would be dual point of view, and they're not, but I'm loving it. Hating Game, one of my favorites, is in one point of view throughout. It's just from the female's point of view in the book.
And Tessa Bailey does third person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones I currently have are in first person past tense, which
Yeah.
doesn't bother me. I don't really, it's interesting because I tend to write more easily in past tense, and I edit, not all the time, but I get in sections where I just can't get in the present, the verbs are like
Right.
always in past tense, and then I have to edit. I'm sure my editor's like, yes. But anyway, yeah, I think what's interesting about point of view is it's how do I say this? It's like tone and style, right? And I find that romance, and I find this too, I can speak to young adult books as well. You think exactly how the point of views are going to go, but then you get a gem that's totally different and it's not set in that structure. But I think more current romance novels are definitely more first person. I think there's a reason for that though, because it sets this tone and style of getting you into the emotional impact of those characters, right? You either love them, you hate them, you want to smack one in the back of the head because they're doing stupid stuff, or, all the things that you wouldn't know otherwise. Like if it was third person limited, right? You wouldn't necessarily know unless you're allowing the narrator to tell the reader everything and watching the characters discover it, which could be quite fun too. But I don't know. I tend to see those things. And we were talking about this in like mysteries, right? They're misleading you, the red herons. I love those. And mysteries and thrillers and other types of genres. I don't know. For me, I do like first person. It's a little easier for me. And I know we've talked about Clifton strengths before, but I'm number one relater. So character, relater, like it comes pretty natural to me. Yeah, I don't know. I think, do you think though that genre expectations are hard and fast? How you see them? I'm just curious.
I think it depends.
Yeah.
There's traditionally published famous authors that I've read that head hop, and I'm like, why do they get to break the rules? I thought this was
So
a
talk
rule.
about what head hopping is really quick.
Okay. Head hopping is where you are in one scene and the point of view switches between every character in that scene. So you are getting the inside thoughts or point of view or take from each of those characters. So if you have a bigger cast scene, I find that it exhausts the reader, because you're getting this person's inner thoughts, this person, even the body language cues that come with the dialogue tags. You're getting that person's point of view, where I had to learn that piece coming out of third person, that when I was writing first person, and I don't know if I have a good example, but that I'd write something where it wasn't like this, but that I would indicate how another character felt when you're not in that person's point of view. How do you know what that person's feeling? The reader won't know this.
Yeah.
Was a challenge I had to overcome because I kept doing that like I was in third person. But the head hopping, you really have to read carefully, because sometimes it loses me, like, okay, who's talking, or who is this? Whose thoughts are we in? But a lot of trad published authors do that. They write with Omniscient, but I think that trend is going away. I think you have to study the genre conventions if you're a new writer. I think that will help you, but you can truly write, I think, what's comfortable, what's easy, and what you like. I think you should start there, because if you hate writing third person, you're not going to pull that off as well if you're fighting it. Do you agree with that?
I would. I have a really good tip from a lady that coached me on point of view early on when I was just starting to draft stories in like 2010. But I was head hopping too, and she was like, "Put the name in the header," because I would write in Word back then, in the header, so you know who's leading the conversation. Anytime that you wanted to head hop, don't add any descriptive words. Show their action to what the person is saying, so that the other people can make the assumption of how they're feeling. So
Right.
like, okay, this person said X, Y, and Z, and they're really angry. So show them throwing down their glass and breaking it, stomping out of the room, slamming a door. That also led me to a little bit of pantsing because I was like, oh, that's fun. Now where do we go? But those are really good tips to if you're starting out or if you feel like I'm head hopping and I shouldn't be because you're not trying to break the rules or go in this other direction. But control over point of view, it really allows you to create suspense. It allows you to unveil character backstory, their motivations, all kinds of things by their actions to what's happening around them. And I love that about first person point of view. Right now, I'm drafting an enemies to lovers, and it's so fun. I decided to do something a little different. I wanted to ask you about this. I decided to go back and forth in this dual point of view that you were describing from both the main female and the love interest, the main male, in my case, going back and forth. I decided that I'm staying with the female for like the first almost quarter of the first act. So like the first 3 to 4 chapters, because I really want you to hate him. And then I go from his point of view. You already don't like him, but now you can see where it's coming from. And then you start to have sympathy for him because she
really like
sees him
that.
this way, but he's really not that way. But she kind of instigated it. And then I go a couple with him. And now I start to go back and forth a little bit. But I was like, I think people can play with point of view in dual point of view like that. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts around that? Because some people are like very consistent and it's no, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And some are like, no, couple here, couple there. I've even seen Megan Quinn, for example, do it within a chapter, changing the scene and having the name. And I was like, wow, brave, but it's working because I know, like who it is. I mean, it's very clear, but what are your thoughts on dual point of view? Because I find it kind of confrontational.
I think it can be. I really like how you're doing that because isn't that the way of human nature as well, where we have maybe a false impression of someone?
Yeah.
And then it does take you learning about that person to maybe be like, well, I was not exactly accurate in my first impression. That's sort of making that natural flow for the reader. They're just really on your character's side. Oh, yeah, what a jerk. And
What a
then
jerk.
once you have more information, then you're starting to root for them. So I think that's a great way to do it.
See if it flies. I don't know. I don't know if people will like this or not, but I feel like it fits the trope. So we'll see. I have not seen that done though.
I've seen that done in sci-fi
You
where
have.
the first act, you're just in one person's. Act 2
Interesting.
switches.
I like it.
Act 3 switches. So it's very like 7 scenes in one point of view.
Interesting.
But in sci-fi, you have different teams, you have expeditions, exploration. So you're getting into the mindset of everyone on this team, Team A. Then you go to Team B. In romance, I've seen it switch back and forth more. I tend to do at least 2 so that you can get settled in that character a little bit before it immediately switches. Unless I want them to react to the same moment. So in the one I'm currently writing, there's sort of a heated exchange during sunrise yoga.
Wow. I love it. That's like comedic fodder right there.
Yes, yes. But there's a little electricity going on. And I switch because I want you to see how each character felt about that same moment right away.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's what I was speaking about with Megan. The story continued forward, but I think it was our holiday one. I think the main male character backtracked just a little bit in his point of view of something that just happened and then carried that scene forward from his perspective. But I thought it odd because it broke up a chapter.
See, I'm not brave enough to do that. You really, each chapter is its own point of view because I don't think I'm that good to pull it off.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's also that reader expectation of flow. right? I talked about that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, even though I'm the writer, I'm not necessarily always my reader, and I have to get me out of that sometimes when I'm trying to think strategically, and I didn't find it that disruptive. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I was like, it worked. Could I pull it? I don't know. Not right now. I'm not going to try.
I
But
think if it
yeah.
means something to that scene, I think you should do it. I haven't had a scene where that would be cool, but I do try to keep it 1 to 2, couple back and forth. But then I've read things where that tends to exhaust the reader, but it also depends because I was doing that in my sci-fi. I think sci-fi superhero land, I did like 3 scenes in one point of view, then switch. I really wasn't going back and forth as much.
Yeah. I
But there's a
remember
lot more action. There's a lot more ways to fatigue your reader with sci-fi superheroes because you've got fight scenes, chase scenes, spaceship scenes. So you don't have a lot of that action in just contemporary romance. So it might
yeah,
be easier to go back and forth.
maybe. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Point of view is like one of those things that I don't think too hard on either. I tend to feel as a writer, do what works for you, but also just be aware of what the conventions are with your comps and the genres you're in. And not only the genres, think about the subgenre too. Because some of those are a little different and peculiar, their own
Yeah.
natures, like when you drill
Yeah.
down. So, yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like trends that are popular, they're like cyclical, like bell bottom jeans, like they go out of style, they come back in, they go out,
Yeah.
like all the things. So I don't know. I'm not
Yeah. Like
necessarily a
in the
trailblazer.
90s, when we were made fun of for wearing mom jeans
Yeah.
and now they're back. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we were
High-waisted jeans that have
hello.
the ruffles,
I
all the
know.
things, right? But I feel like, I'm not a big trailblazer in this particular sense, but I feel like if you feel really strongly and it's easy for you to write in a certain point of view, then go for it. If it serves your story, if you have rationale behind it, right? Like
Mhm.
make see how it will work. I also think being a self-published author gives you that latitude. Right now, if you were going to shop it, maybe really look at what the conventions are for how you're trying to sell it, because that's a different story, I think, in my mind. Do you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
that way?
I absolutely feel that way. And I will say you should read in the point of view that you're writing in because
Mm,
I was reading a romance in third person past, trying to write or no, it was the opposite. I was reading in first person present and I was trying to write in first person past and I kept switching to present because I was reading in it. If you can handle it, fine. Some people can read in a completely different genre than they're writing in at the same time. But I would say it helps train you when
yeah.
you're reading in that exact point of view that you're currently writing in. I try to keep that consistent, but I think you can I don't want to always say you can just do whatever you want because it does come down to, is this a hobby or do you want to make money? And sometimes when you want to have something that sells more and you want to make a profit, you do have to follow some of the rules or meet reader expectations. If this is just something fun that you're doing and you're self publishing because you just are, that's where you can kind of do whatever you want, but
Right.
just be prepared. But I think the point that you made was a good one about if you can justify it, if you can answer the question, why did you write in this point of view or why did you write this way and you have a clear answer, then that's your answer. Then go forth. Go forth, shine on, you crazy diamond. Just do it, you know?
Yeah. Shine on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but there's a lot to learn, but there's a lot of resources out there. I just think it's something I'm glad we talked about it because you don't realize how nuanced it is of a topic when you're crafting.
Yeah, and not a lot of people talk about it. I mean, you
Mm-mm.
hear more in craft books, more so because, well, it's a little meatier, the show don't tell aspect. And
Mhm.
usually there's some aspects around point of view, right? But Yeah, there's not can't think of one that's just its own diamond in the rough somewhere sitting on a bookshelf. About point of view, I mean, it's a fairly dry subject, but I'm sure Strunk and White has it in their grammar, section
Right.
of their book or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's not. But I think the exciting part of it, like we said earlier, it helps you drive your story, like
Hmm.
how you reveal details, how that will come across to the reader. Like it's an important piece of craft for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. What about you? What updates do you have? Well, you are drafting a new romance.
I am, and it's a full novel. So it's not a short romance.
And how has that been? You've been writing in short. So was
Yeah.
it a challenge to go back to full, or was it just like, nah?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. No, it's kind of like point of view. Well, you read my first chapter. So I went really fast and it was a bit of an info dump because I'm learning who my characters are and how I'm setting the stage around things. And then I started to go and as I revealed here, I'm doing so many chapters from the female point of view before moving to the male for reasons of the trope and to really drive it home. And I realized, oh my gosh, my other chapters are so much more buildy, get to know, not as action packed, even though I do need this action mechanism at the beginning. So I'm like, okay, that has to be edited. A lot of people are coming out of it because it was a lot of characters being kind of dumped in there to set the stage for how things are going. So yeah, no, I would say I had to cool my jets. It's very different. And it's interesting because I have a coach and I was meeting with this coach for the first time and they were like, it's really, really hard to write short and pull it off well. And I was thinking to myself, but I'm doing it and I love it. Okay, God, can I write a novel? So then I started doubting myself because it's been a hot minute. It's just slower beats, building up beats. Whereas writing short, I'm just very conscious of my word count and how to move things quickly without trying to feel so super rushed. But again, I'm all character. So tying you to feel about the characters that are involved in the story without it being too overwhelming in this little town. Yeah, been a it's been a shift for sure. And I keep sneaking in to my short that I need to finish for the holiday, which is if Angela was driving me right now, she'd be like, "What are you doing?" But
Yeah.
bear with me. But sometimes, I get energy from completion and novels are longer. They're more onerous and just a little more difficult. Even though I've got a really decent draft, I know where it's going. It's just it's tougher right now. I'm just having a tougher time meeting the daily word count. I'm definitely progressing, but I need to get to a point where I'm just really rolling and I'm not quite there yet. How about
Right.
you? What's going on with you?
Well, I'm trying to decide if I want to do an audiobook for my romance or if I need to put those resources into just creating more books. That's always the question, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
where do I allocate funds? Do I put something else out? Or do I save this for editing? Or should I get 3 romances out and then start audiobooks, which I think I may actually do. But
And
yeah,
it's
I'm
not
yeah.
without work audiobooks, right? Because I'm doing that as well. There's scripts writing aspects that we, the authors, well, the production company I'm working with, I have to do. And you have to fill out these long sheets about your book. Like, it's not like, hey, they're doing an audiobook and we're hands off. It's
Right.
a lot of work. So when you're
It's a lot of
saying,
work.
do I want
Yeah.
to do now versus my resources of your time now in more books? It's a good question, right? I
Yeah.
mean, or I think not asking, right, Angela? That's a good question. No, it is a good
It is.
question
It's a
because
question I have to, I just have to look at my monthly budget because self-publishing, the costs are all on you. The control is with you, but also I have to be mindful. Where do I need to put my time and money? And it just keeps coming back to I need to put more books out. So,
yeah.
but I accidentally started a dark romance.
Here I go.
I'm notorious. Like if I get stuck, then something else comes to me. But writing time is writing time. As long as I'm writing something, so what if I have 4 different things started? I will finish them. But the thing is, I have to strike when the iron is hot because so much, as you know, work, life gets in the way of the creative energy. When I lose it bad and I get writer's block. So any idea I have, I just write it down. I write when I have that energy. So as long as I'm writing and showing up to my writing time and writing something, that's enough. You know, that's the personal update. Now, table topic time.
These are good problems to have, though. Just
These
think
are
about all.
great first world
Yeah,
author
but you're
problems to
moving
have.
forward
Yeah.
in your
Yeah. I'm doing something. Hey,
yeah.
I'm the okayest author in the world, and that means I'm always doing it. Okay, what age were you in the best shape? When I was a fetus? Pretty much when I was a fetus. That was like, I was unstoppable.
You just right out the gate know the answer. You're like, oh, when I was in the womb, best shape of my life.
Yeah, the size 0. What were you? What about you?
I was probably 16 or 17. I used to play tennis and I was super active, and living in Oklahoma is where I went to high school, and they had these country clubs, that you would go to. Well, when I say country clubs, I mean country dance bar clubs that you could go into.
That's a little different. I
Yeah,
was picturing like
that
the
you could
yacht
go
club, and you're
into.
like, okay, it's in a barn.
Yeah, you didn't have to be 21. They would, you would get the stamp and the bracelet, but I would go there and I would dance my ass off. Oops,
I
dance
love
my
it.
butt off.
That's all right.
And I was just in really great shape back then, and I would play tennis all the time, and I was really competitive. And then, I don't know, college hit and I wasn't doing those things anymore. Yeah, I mean, I still love to dance and go out and do things, but I'm not as rigorous, obviously. And it's so funny, when my husband and I were married, we like gained like 20 pounds first year of marriage. And somebody said, "What, do you guys eat out all the time?" And I said, "No, I'm a really good cook. We are not this way because I don't know how to cook." It's one of
That's
those things.
hilarious.
And Butch will go, "Yeah." And all of a sudden she wanted to figure out how to decorate cakes. So who has to eat them? Me? And I was like, "Yeah, because you have to eat cake." I mean, it's just,
That's
yeah.
spousal abuse,
So,
but whatever.
kind of been
Yeah.
up and down in my life. You can find all kinds of pictures where I'm super pudgy and then all of a sudden I'm skinny. And I don't know, kind of in my pudgy phase now, but I'm kind of at this point in my life where I'm like, I'm happy with it. I'd
I
just like
think
to
that's
be
where
more active, a little stronger.
yeah. Yeah.
I'd be
I
okay.
think a little healthier, active, stronger. I was a sprinter in high school. And so my junior senior year, I was a state champion as well.
Nice.
And I was in killer shape then. Then it dips like your first year of college, right? But then I transitioned from sprinting, which is difficult because when you're a runner, they measure you for something called fast twitch or slow twitch, like in your
Oh, yeah,
muscles.
your muscles, muscle
And I
fibers.
always had fast twitch. So I transitioned because I still wanted to compete. I still liked competing for things. So after college, I started doing half marathons and triathlons. And I was in the best shape when I had something to train for, like a triathlon where you're swimming, you're running, you're biking.
Mhm.
And I was in killer shape then. I was lifting weights. And then I don't know what happened. I think running takes such a toll on your body. So after a while, then I just had to do different forms of exercise. Then COVID hits, and then I'm working from home more. And, it's
Yeah.
a
And
story,
then the
whatever.
thing that you like to do outside of working is writing, and that's pretty sedentary too.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
I'm aging myself. I used to run with the massive CD Walkman. I had a cassette
Yeah.
Walkman, but then when they came out with the CD ones, I would hold that thing. Like that thing was huge. And I
Yeah.
would run with my little spongy headphones and had all kinds of mixed CDs that would get my pace down with each song. And those were the days. Now,
I
as
can
I
tell you,
spoke
I've
about in
never-
episode 14, I'm wearing elastic waist pants all the time.
I've never been a runner, so I'm impressed. I'm always fascinated with people who can run big distances or short, fast distances. Mine was, can I get to the ball quick enough? Like when we would have to, our coaches would always make us run, and I hated it. I never found purpose and I never found like a runner's high. And I would try like the couch to 5K and I would try all these like I would have these ideas that I could do it, and I hated every second of it. It was just not for me. I am just not built to be a runner.
It's okay.
But I respect runners so much. And the fact that you did a half marathon, marathons, triathlons, I'm like, say what? That's crazy.
It's okay. I had no hand-eye coordination. So my coaches were like, well, okay, could you run from point A to B as fast as you can? And I was like, sure, I can do that. I can't shoot a basketball or play tennis.
I played basketball.
Go
and
from
tennis.
point A to B.
Yeah.
I can handle that. So good for you for playing a sport like tennis. That makes me jealous for sure.
Yeah. I couldn't withstand it today. It would have to be lobbing kind of tennis. I'm really interested in learning pickleball. And my husband bought me a lovely thing for my birthday, and we need to get out and do it. And we still have yet to do it. But he played tennis too. So it was really fun in college because we would just get on the court and it was fun.
Yeah.
Cheap date.
Yeah. You'll get out there for sure. Oh. Well, friends, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you're listening or watching the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us, either website contact form or on YouTube, and let us know, is there something you want to learn more about? Something you want us to chat about? We're all ears, right? Next week, we're talking with guest Susie Vidori about writing that second book in the series. So until then, keep writing, keep doing. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.